Hey, good to see you again. It's the author Tonya Ellis welcoming you for another episode of my author interview show, Write This. Today I welcome Leslie C. Youngblood, a middle grade author with two beautiful books. I can't wait to have her on and learn about her books and all about her career. I became familiar with her about 6 years ago, and her books are amazing. Well, I've read the first book and it was amazing. I can't wait to read the next one. And I can't wait to have her on to share the knowledge that she has about being a middle grade author and writing tips. And I've seen her talking about NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, and giving information for authors for that. So I can't wait to ask her questions about that as well. So we'll have her on. I see people joining us and I see that she's here. So I'm going to send her an invite right now. Let's see, get this on here. And get her on. Okay, so she's going to come on and drop some serious knowledge today. And I'm so happy to see so many of you on here that have joined us in past episodes. Please be sure to add and feel free to add questions in the comments so that we can pose them for Leslie. Hey, Leslie.
Hey, how are you?
Fine. How are you doing?
I am doing fine.
I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you, Tonya. This is my first Instagram Live, actually.
Well, I'm so happy too, Leslie. I've had other authors who've never done Instagram Live have trouble logging on, and you log right on.
Well,
so that's good.
I'm really familiar with Instagram. I've been on lives, and I was a big participant in the Versa battles. Well, not participant, but I checked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. At least I did that. That helped.
Yes. Well, I'm so happy. And I read your book, Love Like Sky, about 6 years ago, and I just loved it. And I was drawn to the beautiful cover by Vashti. And I just have been a big fan for all these years. So I'm really honored to have you here.
And I think we originally met maybe on another platform, right?
Maybe I've just seen you around, or maybe I've been commenting on your post or something.
Yeah.
And you may have seen me on
there. We've been connected for a while now, like you said, 6 or 7 years.
Yeah. Now, can you tell us a little bit about your background in writing?
Wow, definitely. I think I've always loved writing, but never aspired to be an author till I was in my 20s. Because as a child, it just wasn't something that was put in front of me as something to aspire to. And that's something that I think is important to share, because a lot of writers believe that if you didn't catch the bug when you were, in the womb, then it doesn't happen for you. But my family was mostly based on oral storytelling. So even though I know I read books, and I know some of the books that I read as a child, but I was never that avid reader. I prefer TV shows. I was the oldest. We would plop in front of the TV. So that journey took a while, but somewhere in my 20s, I always tell this story and I'll shorten it. I was a receptionist, and someone gave me James Baldwin's Go Tell It on the Mountain. A secretary named Nettie gave that to me, and I read Go Tell It on the Mountain and decided this is what I must do.
Wow.
Those words, that connection to those people, that character, it really changed my life. And so at that time, I think I had a marketing major. Creative writing was not on my list of things to do. I think I was heading in the marketing, fashion design, believe it or not. I don't even like shopping, so I don't know how that I don't even like shopping now. But anyway, but my mom could sew, I could sew, my grandmother was a seamstress, so it just seemed like what I was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But when the secretary, whose name I'll never forget, Nettie, handed me James Baldwin when I was at that reception desk, I read it during that shift, or the next day I changed my major.
Wow.
And I never looked back.
That is amazing and that's wonderful. But really, you had that storytelling background. Even if you weren't doing that as a younger person, you were getting that story from your family, oral
Oh, right, right.
storytelling, and watching the TV.
You're right. It's important to say that I loved words. I love, so that was instilled in me. But people think you actually have to like to read all the books. I read magazines,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. Listen to my mom and my uncles, my great uncles tell stories, and was always, as they say, ear hustling. To them, always ear hustling as a child and being amazed at how they could make me feel that I was right there with the stories that they shared. And now it just seems natural that I'm doing that same thing, but I'm just, doing them in a written form.
Right. Now, where are you from originally?
Um,
Where?
I was actually born in a place called Bogalusa, Louisiana,
Okay.
which is about 60 miles from New Orleans, really small town. But I was raised in Rochester, New York. Since
Oh, okay. Oh,
So
oh, you raised in
Rochester,
Rochester.
yeah,
Okay,
right,
yeah.
New York. Went to school and up in Atlanta, Georgia. I started in Atlanta, Georgia. Originally at Morris Brown College, then actually graduated from Georgia State University, and from there, worked a little bit and decided to get a MFA. And I
Oh,
only came about MFA because I would read. Is my microphone okay? Can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
So the only reason I decided to get the Master's of Fine Arts, because it took me so long to finish undergraduate, because I went part-time and I worked during the day, sometimes 2 or 3 jobs. It was a long process. But I believe I was working at Morehouse College as a communications person
Mm-hmm.
and in the president's office. And I was a short story writer, still am a short story writer. And every time I would read a short story I really enjoyed, and I think writers should do this too, always read the author's bio. It
Mm-hmm.
tells you a lot. So I would read the author's bio, and the ones that I really admired, it said MFA. And I was like, let me think about this. So I gathered some short stories and applied and received uh, offer to attend UNC Greensboro for two
Uh-oh.
years, fully funded.
Oh, yeah.
So I
Great.
was, after struggling so much for my undergraduate degree, because it took me years to finish, just
Mm-hmm.
not planned out well. You know how that can be.
Mm-hmm.
Just first generation college. So I just didn't have a blueprint for that. But for my MFA, to just be able to solely focus on my work, I mean, that was an absolute blessing.
Yeah, that is so cool. That's interesting. My children are in college in Atlanta, so that's how I'm like, oh yeah, they were
Oh
there.
yeah, I have really a history with the ATL, as they call it. I have my sister still there. Matter of fact, the reason she is in Atlanta, she came to stay with me. And I'm actually back in upstate New York now, but I stayed in Rochester, in Atlanta for like, 15, 20 years. Worked for a magazine called the Atlanta Tribune, the
Oh,
magazine, which is still in Atlanta, still, owned. It was originally owned by an African American woman and her husband. So really some deep rooted connections in Atlanta. So
that's
hey
so.
everyone, anyone from Atlanta?
Yeah, okay. Now, what's I have just started following you on Twitter, and I love how you give tips for writers and things on your not Twitter, TikTok. What am I talking about? On
Oh,
TikTok.
you didn't make yourself known to me on TikTok,
Well,
did you?
I just really got on TikTok myself not long. I kind of just peep in and out, and
Okay.
I just saw that you have some good tips on TikTok for writers. So, how did you get involved with that, or what? How did you choose that
Well,
platform?
who would have thought? Okay, I know this is Instagram, so don't tell me one, but I love TikTok and follow me here, but follow me on TikTok. And I'm on Twitter, Facebook as well. But I'm pretty much living, as they say these days, on TikTok. And I love to share tips. Okay, how did I start on TikTok? Well, one thing, let me tell you, there's an entity called Book Talk, or a hashtag called Book Talk on TikTok. One day I went into Barnes and Noble, and I see, well, actually not one day, when my book was being ready to be released forever this summer, and there's a table in Barnes and Noble, says, taken from TikTok. I mean, taken from Book Talk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wait a minute, this thing has that much power that they influence what's on the tables at Barnes and Noble. And they were like, yeah, it's the hashtag Book Talk on TikTok. And that day, just because I make decisions like boom, I said, wait a minute, as an author, why am I not there? So
Right.
I just got on, logged on. It took me a little bit to get comfortable because it's all video. You can't really hide behind. You have to get out there. And I have a one of my eyes is just always goes kind of, wonky sometimes. So it took a lot for me to take that step to always be on video. But man, I said, wait a minute, I'm gonna have to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I did it and became comfortable and got my following up. And that's just how. So the short answer is there shouldn't be a place that books are talked about that as a writer, I don't know about it. So I got in there and I love it there.
Right. I need to get more. I'm going to start really going through your content because it seems very helpful.
And some of it
Now,
is fun. Some of it is fun, but the majority is helpful. But,
yeah.
TikTok takes work because there's a balance, like with anything else. And I'm on Twitter, Twitter too. And they all have, like, I do a lot of book stuff on Twitter, but that TikTok, writer talk, author talk is just really pervasive on TikTok.
Right.
So I encourage all writers to try it out. Maybe, and I consider myself a content creator at this point.
Ah,
And just like a writer, no one has to give you that distinction. You do the work and you give it to yourself. So I deemed me a content creator. So that's what I am. Just like you're a writer because you write. I'm a content creator because I get on there and I work and I create content for people. So it's just about, how do you eventually make that work for you even more? So claim what you are. Don't wait for the world to do it. Don't wait for an MFA. Don't wait for any of that. Claim what you are and do that. Someone else has to make me an author by publishing, or I publish myself, but I made me a writer, and everyone here can do that too.
right. Thank you. That's a wonderful. Yeah. Now, we talked about where you're from, but can you share a little bit about your work? Tell us about your books and the storylines.
Oh, well, sure. Love Like Sky, my first book here. That's my debut, Love Like Sky. It is celebrated 3 years, believe it or not. It was 3 years old on November 6th. I cannot believe it's been out in the world for 3 years, but
Wait a minute, it's only 3 years old? I
Yeah.
thought I read that 6 years ago.
No, no, no. Even, you know what? Even when you said
Okay.
that, I didn't think. I was thinking that we've been connected 6 years. It's probably been coming out for 20, it feels like. And it feels much older. But it's been three
Yeah.
years.
The reason I remember one time when I read it, we had a power outage, and I know it starts when they're doing the whip and nay nay or something in that, but I'm serious. And my kids were doing the whip and nay nay, and we had a
Mm-hmm.
power outage, and it was a little after that I read your book. So I remember.
It came out
Yeah,
November
so okay. I thought it
18th.
was.
November
Yeah.
2018. It was my debut novel.
Yeah.
So and that is about blended families. It's about just everlasting love. We love people like the sky. It's never ending. If the sky follows us everywhere we go, every time you look up, there it is. And I think that's how we love, when we love people unconditionally, and we love people, you know, just infinitely. And through that, I I was grieving part of that because my family suffered the loss of my brother. One of my brothers was taken from us. And I do think that Love Like Sky was part of helping me heal. You know, that sibling bond that's in Love Like Sky is just what I needed. And I believe the part that when I wrote that passage about Love Like Sky, I really will always believe that I felt this spiritual connection, you know, from my brother. Because I wrote that, what I think sold the book, I wrote that, as we call in one sitting. It just came out like a stream of consciousness. And of all the book, that part has been the least edited. You know, pretty much how that came out in that sitting, Georgie and Peaches talking. I could have read it for you. Um, the way it came out is pretty much verbatim as to how I wrote it.
Yeah, that is beautiful. And what a wonderful tribute to your brother.
Right. It is dedicated. The book is dedicated to Samuel C. Griffin and everyone who watches us from above. But my first book is dedicated to my brother Sammy. And I've been blessed with wonderful siblings, and just like, you know, Georgie and Peaches, and those sibling connections are very strong, and Love Like Sky, and they continue and forever this summer. What you will find when you pick up my book is they're all about family. You're gonna find food, you know. We, you know, love to cook. Well, I don't really cook a lot, but you know, my
We
family.
love to eat good food.
I love to eat good food. I can do a little something, but um, so we take that blended family, those siblings. There's the best friend dynamic with Georgie and her best friend Nikki. So we get all of that in Love Like Sky. And now when we move to Forever This Summer, which has only been out since July. Now that is what surprises me. It seems like that book has been out longer, but it's a new baby book, you know? It's only been out since July. And we carry the story where they go to Bogalusa, Louisiana. The family travels there to care for a great auntie.
Because they lived outside Atlanta in the other one, didn't they?
They live in Snellville, Georgia.
Okay, yeah.
You know, which is, if people who know Atlanta, kind of like on the outskirts of Atlanta proper. And so when the family you know, takes a trip during the summer to Bogalusa, Louisiana, they're there to care for a great auntie who is suffering from Alzheimer's. And she was, you know, she's the matriarch and had a diner called Sweetings. And so she can't run it anymore. And so Georgie and her friends just put together this fundraiser to help. And so it's just a lot about community, fun, talent, and doing the very best you can where you believe is good enough. No one else has to think is great, but you believe that you are doing the best you can to help. And I think that is what, and there's a new character called Marky that I introduced, and I think people have said, we want to see Marky in a standalone book. So publisher that listening, you know, my publisher is listening to that.
Yeah, that's really good. And the characters and the lessons that you're imparting seem like they're good for adults as well as kids.
Well, I believe that middle grade is for everyone, you know, excuse the cliche, but you know, it's for all readers, regardless of the age. That's what middle grade is for. So there are a lot of adults that read middle grade during the pandemic. And if you turn on TV, there's so much murder. There's so much, everything is, you know, all these CSIs, not to down those, but everything is so graphic. And so sometimes you want your escapism in reading to be something that you know is going to stay under a certain bar of profanity, and so there are a lot of adults who read middle grade pretty much exclusively from how they email me and tell me that they enjoy it. So you don't have to do it under the guise of reading it for a child. You read it for yourself. And share it and read with a child, however you want to do it.
Yeah, because it's really comforting to me. I love middle grade. Now, here's the question I have for you. How did they choose your cover illustrator? Because I was immediately drawn to Love Like Sky because of the beautiful illustration, or
Well,
did they just pick it, or how did that come about?
that was just that's an absolute blessing. Right now, my publisher is Little Brown for Young Readers. Absolutely excellent. Prior to that, though, it was Disney Books, Disney Worldwide. That
Oh.
is who I initially published with. Long story short, Disney decided to sell most of its literary titles to Little Brown, who was building their literary titles. So when I published with Disney, my editor there, Laura, she had watched Vashti's career. And I don't think Vashti had, maybe she had done a cover or two before, but she wasn't the triple or quadruple New York Times bestseller artist that she is now, an author as well. So Laura immediately remembered Vashti's work and said, hey, I have the perfect illustrator for this. I had no hand in it. I was just absolutely blessed that this is the illustrator. And you know, honestly, when I signed with Disney, some people were warning me, oh, you know, it's Disney, they're going to do something to, you know, whitewash your cover. And it wasn't that case at all. I'm not saying that people have it in the past and all those things. I'm telling you my experience with my book. Vashti was excellent. And initially the cover we had, the cover that marketing approved was not the cover that you see now. It was a big heart, and Georgie was really small underneath it. And initially I said, you know, it's Disney, it's my first book. And it was Vashti's work. It was still nice, but it just wasn't the cover of my dreams, you know. But I didn't know how to go about it. So of course I had an agent, and I told the agent, and he was like, hey, just, you know, present it to them. And so, you know, tell them, you know, your apprehensions. So I mentioned it to my editor, and she thought about it for a while, and she came back to me the next day or so and said, hey, you know, you are so vested. I love these characters so much. If you're not happy with the cover, we're going to do something about it. Even though marketing said that was the cover they thought would work the best. It was the generic cover, as they said. So she sent me over everything that Vashti Harrison had sent to her. I mean, not to her, but to, you know, marketing and to everyone. And in that, there's that cover.
Right.
And I was like, oh my gosh. So Laura, my editor at the time, you know, and they just said, hey, you know, if this is the one. So that's how we came to Georgie as we know it now. And the little Band-Aid, that was my addition because it's from one of the scenes. So Vashti was great to work with. And I really hope, I know every author does not have this experience, but I was really fortunate that I had an editor and an illustrator who were really tuned in to my vision as well. And, you know, it was Vashti Harrison off the bat. So I was fortunate.
Well, it's a beautiful work. And then, are you working on anything else? Will there be a continuation of the story with these characters, or what's the next
Well,
plan?
you know, I think right now I've done two in this family. So I believe that my third book would branch off to a totally separate story, you know, because right now the characters, however they come, is is how the story forms in my head. So I don't want to, because keep in mind, I could write 2, 3, 4 more stories with Georgie and Peaches and Nikki and, you know, all of that family. And I think I will, God willing. But I think that my next book, I'll branch off to different characters.
Mm-hmm. And just move to something fresh and new, I
Yeah,
guess.
something fresh, but keep Georgie in mind, or, you know, and maybe even write from another point of view of one of the other characters. So a lot of things, because you know, when you do have the opportunity to publish, there's just so many things you want to do, you know, because keep in mind, this is my first middle grade book. The books that I have written before, the manuscripts were women's lit. So this is
Oh.
my first middle grade. And it was just because that is the voice that spoke to me at the time. I never said, oh, I want to be a middle grade writer, or oh, I just was going with the voices. If a 30-year-old voice come, I write. If a, this was the first time that 11-year-old came and wanted to be in the forefront.
Right, that's cool. Now you give a lot of tips for writers, and in light of it being NaNoWriMo month, what kind of tips would you give for aspiring authors or those that are trying to write?
Well,
Thinking.
I will tell you that I'm gonna be honest, I have never finished NaNoWriMo.
Right.
I have not, but I'm a cheerleader for all writers. So if it's NaNoWriMo, which if people who do not know, is where you write a draft of a novel in 1 month, the month of November. So National Novel Writers Month or Writing Month. But it didn't work for me. But for those who it works for to complete that draft, great. But so the tips that I would do is just try to, get a routine. My
Mm.
routine has been the same for years, which is I write at 5. And that doesn't work for everyone, but it works for me. Even when I was
5 a.m. or p.m.?
5 a.m., I like to get
Right.
at about 4:45. And I like to be in motion. Now, sometimes I don't make it to my desk right at 5. And Twitter has the 5 a.m. Writers Club, or yeah, 5 a.m. Writers Club. So I would log on and do that on Twitter. So that, that community support, that synergy is good. But I tell you, so I would say get a routine, follow your instincts as far as voice. And those are pretty much my two, main tips. And I know whereas 5 a.m. works for me, it may not work for you. You have to find what's comfortable for you and do that and be consistent and just write. Um, Everyone's going to give you advice. Listen to all of it. Only take what really speaks to you.
Mm-hmm.
So that
And
is,
do you write 7 days a week or just 5 days or?
I write, I am doing something writing related every day. And I do believe that's because I don't think, writing is not that thing that you tap in, tap out. I think I'm just always a writer. It's just me. It's just my whole persona. And I'm always looking and tuned. So even if I'm not on my computer writing, I'm thinking about it. I'm wondering about it. I'm, looking at books. But my actual writings, I try to write at least Monday through, well, I mean, I can't really say that. I try to write every day. Some
Mm-hmm.
days it works, some days it doesn't. But
Right.
all I know is that if you have, and keep in mind, after you publish, it even gets harder to write every day because I could spend all day and be really busy doing writerly stuff. And
Right.
I haven't even written a paragraph. I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. So you have to kind of carve out the time to write. And that's harder. There's kids, there's husbands, there's all these things that you have to incorporate in your life. But I think the most important thing is to be consistent and endure, and do not, because I guess that's why the National Novel Writers Month, I support people who are doing it. But guess what? What if December rolls around and you didn't do what you wanted to do in November? There are some people who really believe, well, I'll pick it up next November. No, you pick it up. I
Yeah.
mean, I want you to pick it up,
Mm-hmm.
December 2nd. That's every day. It's like what people say about the Christmas spirit or the holiday spirit. That should be with us all the time, right? And
Right.
that's how I feel about writing. If you get the urge to write a novel, write that novel in June, right? The very moment you get that urge, start. So some people do hesitate and say, well, I'm going to wait for, because it's very support. It's a supportive community. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel that. But right now with TikTok, with Twitter, with Facebook, you could find that supportive community, you know, every month. So, if you're doing National Novels Writers Month, be consistent, do the best you can. And as Baldwin says, endurance is what's going to count. And it
Right.
counts, as he says, more than talent in the long run. Because there's people with way more talent than either one of us that will never do what we're doing right now because they give up.
Right. Right.
So if you just say, hey, I'm in this for the long run, this is just not and I think it's Octavia Butler who says that you can't count on just these bursts of inspirations. You have to count on the habit, the consistency is what gets the book, written, not, oh, I'm inspired to write today. Inspiration is out the window. You have to make it your job. This is what you do every day. And when I say every day, I'm not saying that you have to write every day. I'm saying that your desire to want to publish is there consistently, right? If maybe you take a day off, whatever, but your desire to do it is consistent. Is not it's a habit. It's not something you're doing willy-nilly.
Right. Well, you have dropped some serious knowledge on us today and really inspired me myself, because when you get tired, you get, oh, I'm tired, or you get overwhelmed. So
Right.
the main thing is having that consistency and that routine and habit to just
Right.
carry you through.
It's not about what you feel like. I mean, get on there, write something, just a couple words, or take that day off and say, tomorrow I'll start again. But that endurance in the long run are the people who publish, and no matter how you publish, self-publish, traditional publish, doing what you want to do is the endurance. And that is what I believe in. And that is why, since I'm long-winded, that's why TikTok works for me. when I
Yeah, but I'm going to keep on getting on that
about
TikTok
writing
and listening to what you're saying, because I'm learning so much right now.
with
And
the,
like you said, I've never completed NaNoWriMo either. I learned about it maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but it helped me just increase word count and
yeah,
push for, and especially with the holidays. For me, November is like one of my busy times with marketing for my books and getting ready for the holidays. So it's kind of a funny month for some
right.
people
And
too.
I don't even know the history of it. All I know, if it encourages people to write, to follow their passion, I'm supportive of it. But I think that every month is National Novel Writers Month for people that are ready to, to tell their story. And as Maya Angelou says, to not die with an untold story inside of you, which, is we got to get these stories out. We have to share.
Right, right. Well, thank you so much, Leslie, for taking the time to come here and share your expertise with us and share your beautiful books with us. Can
Thank you.
you tell us where people can find you, where all your handles are for people to follow
Oh,
you?
okay. TikTok. I know some of you haven't downloaded TikTok. I know you haven't, but if you do, venture in and download it. Just take it slow. Just download it. Just follow me, Leslie C. Youngblood. If you type that in, I'll come up. So my full name, Leslie C. Youngblood, for TikTok, and for Twitter, it's LES, Les C. Youngblood, and Facebook, Instagram, wherever people are doing writerly stuff, I'm hopefully there saying something. I'm available for book clubs. You can always contact me on my email, which is lesliecyoungblood.com. No, lesliecyoungblood.com is my website. So that's my house. lesliecyoungblood.com is my website. And I'm going to start, I've already started, of course, like most writers, doing bookings and things for Black History Month. So that's a consideration for book clubs. And I feel so blessed to talk about what I absolutely love. And this feeling, Tiny, this is what we love to do. And I'm always encouraging people to do the same. Get over your insecurities, because that's what TikTok teaches you with posting, is to overcome any insecurities that you may have, and because you're going to get a lot of pushback in writing. And I think all these social media platforms can get us used to dealing with different types of anxieties that we may have.
Right, right. Well, thank you for all of this information. I know we've all learned so much, and I just appreciate your time. Everybody, please support Leslie. Her books are Love Like Sky and Forever This Summer. And
Yes.
she shared her links where you can follow her. So
And I
thank you for
see so
coming.
many people I know. I see Laura, I see my friend Marva. So thank you guys. So
Yeah.
it's just it always just warms my heart when people I know, because I probably have said these things on other platforms, but they still come and listen to me, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, this is just stuff that bears repeating. The things you're saying, it helps us all. So I
And
appreciate you.
my writing journey has taken so long. I mean, it was, I think, 15, 20 years before I actually published, and so many ups and downs. So we all have stories to share, and these social media platforms for me are ways to share. So I'm happy to do it.
Well, thank you, Leslie. And thank you all for tuning in. And we'll be back next week with another author interview on Write This. We'll
All
see you
right.
then.
Thank you.
All
Hi,
right.
everyone. Follow me. Talk to you later.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye bye.